Nearly 2 decades in the sports broadcast game, and what a ride it's been. Interviews with the 42nd President Bill Clinton, to Lakers legends Kobe Bryant, and the NBA's all-time leading scorer Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, to name a few. I've been blessed to cover and tell some amazing stories, but there were so many more I didn't get to tell.
Thanks for tuning in to Untold Truths with Telly. My guest is four-time NBA All-Star and current Milwaukee Bucks assistant coach, Vin Baker. You have quite the redemption story, and we're going to get to the comeback part of it a little later. But let's first talk about the rise as Vin Baker. You're a freshman at the University of Hartford. You're averaging 4.7 points per game. By the time you're a senior, you're averaging 28.3 points, which was fourth best in the country. Mm-hmm. What happened? How did all this come about?
So I will say my freshman year, Telly, I always joke around. I was averaging 4 more points than a dead man. So, I really, I'm blessed and fortunate. I give all glory and praise to God for giving me the talent and the ability. But I think the jump that I made from my freshman year to my senior year is that I'm just super competitive. I was just, I was game and I hadn't grown into my body, but I was passionate about the game of basketball, and I was passionate about getting better. So, with those two things, and I see this similar to Giannis, like where I was when I was 19 years old, I just had this will to get better every single day, whether it was one-on-ones, whether it was 5-on-5s. And with that passion and the God-given talent, Telly, it just went, it felt like it was like overnight that I was averaging 5 points. And then my senior year, averaging closer to 30 points a game. But, in between those times, man, just prayer, faith, working hard, dedicated to my craft, and really competitive. And those are the things I think that catapulted me from a freshman who was scrawny and about $195 soaking wet to, one of the premier scorers in the country at the time, and ultimately became the 8th pick.
Yes, it kind of becoming an 8th pick in the 1993 draft by the Bucks. You ended up playing 4 seasons in Milwaukee. After your second season, you became an All-Star and had went to 4 straight All-Star games, with that final one being in 1998 at Madison Square Garden. And in lieu of the Last Dance documentary, that was supposed to be Michael Jordan's last All-Star game. What do you remember most about that weekend in New York City, or is there any other Jordan encounter that you would never forget?
There's a few Jordan encounters. Some are worthy to say and some can't be said, but I just, I was also able to be one of the players that he selected to be part of the brand Jordan, his launch of the brand Jordan, where he brought in some of the NBA players. And I was his power forward at the time, and I had my own sneaker, the Pro Strong, that launched in 97, 98, or 98, 99. And then I had my own shoe, the Vindicator. But I think the thing that I loved about Michael, everyone that knew him personally, it was his competitive nature. But I think some of the things that kind of got lost, and I didn't watch a ton of The Last Dance, but I think some of the things that kind of got lost in that is he was a compassionate person. Like, he said things to me that, I just knew he had a different side. For instance, I had my own sneaker, and he had a game in North Carolina in the summertime called the greatest pickup game on earth. For obvious reasons, he was in it, and it was summertime. Right? And so I walk out with, I think I had my Vindicators on and my Pro Strongs on, and I walk out getting ready for the game. And Michael walks up to me. He's like, "Man, I thought those were going to be me." And I'm saying to myself, "Man, these are you, man." But, you know what I mean? Like, but I appreciate that you're acknowledging, man, that I'm part of the brand and I've got my own signature shoe and it's my own thing. And that's the type of dude that he was. I remember we were playing in my second All-Star game in San Antonio, his first All-Star game back, and I'm in the layup lines. And this is, I think, his first year being back. So I hadn't played against him the first year. So he walks out, we're in layup lines. He was like, $50, you don't make your first shot. Just starts talking crazy to me. I was like, all right. So I ended up scoring like 4 points in the game. I think I only took 2 shots, and I made the first one. So we're playing the Bulls after that All-Star break, the first game here in Milwaukee at the Bradley Center. And the ball boy walks up to me as I'm getting ready for the game. He says, Michael said to send his $50 or it's 55 tonight. I'm like, bro. So I had some great stories with Michael, man. And just not only was he a great competitor, and I'll be honest with you, Telly, I didn't watch a lot of The Last Dance. I have my own stories, man. That's kind of where I want to leave it with that, man. And the stories that I had with him are all great stories. Just a good guy as far as I was concerned.
Awesome. In 2000, you were a member of the gold medal winning team in the Sydney Olympics. Yep. And you were on the floor when Vince Carter jumped over that 7-footer from France. You were feet away. Like, what was going through your mind when you look over and you see him jumping over this dude?
So T, I'm gonna tell you this, and you're gonna understand where I'm coming from. I'm the one person probably in the entire world that at that particular time, I thought it was the most selfish play I've ever seen in my life, right? So I totally was the guy. If you watch the film, anybody watch this film, the ball's kind of turned over. And let me understand this in the Olympics, because we have so many great players. Points are a premium, man. Like, you need 2 points, get 4 or 8, because everybody's scoring, right? So I don't know if I was sitting on 2 or whatever, but I point for the lob. Like, I'm setting up for the lob, and the dude just jumped. Ultimately, one of the greatest dunks in the history of basketball. I'm not gonna lie to you. My first reaction was, "You selfish son of a gun!" And I'm not making this up to you. Like, after I saw the reactions of everyone else, I kind of played it off, man. But I did get a chance to see Vince maybe about 2 years ago, and I said, "Bro, did you ever even consider throwing that lob to me when I was there?"
We know it didn't happen, but did you even think about it?
So T, I have to be honest with you. One of the greatest plays in basketball history. I am the one person historically, and I'm kind of proud of it. I was an Olympian. My first reaction wasn't as excited as everybody else's, man.
That is awesome. Now, Vin, I mean, I've been knowing you for a while. You've come out with a book. We'll get to in a little bit, but your alcoholism is well documented, and you're very candid when it comes to this, because I know you like to share your story. But can you pinpoint initially when it started, and were you aware that you possibly had a problem once it started?
Yeah, it was like in the summer of '99, maybe, or summer of '98. I can't remember the exact year, but I mean, when you're, I think I might have been like 27, 28 years old, and I never had the issue before, T. So I didn't identify with drinking all the time as an issue. I thought, I'm 27, I'm 28, I'm a 4-time NBA All-Star, 2-time All-NBA, I have my own Jordan sneaker. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is kind of comes with the image. It comes with the territory of success and being an NBA basketball player. And before I knew it, that summer, T, it went from recreation to this weird feeling like, I think I need to do this. And I couldn't, being a superb athlete and being, one of the guys that's in shape, people look up to you, and so many, like, it happened quickly. Like, it was the summer right before the NBA locked out. And so it happened fast. And then the problem became, T, that at that time, T, is that I couldn't tell anyone. Like, I've succumbed to this disease, this addiction. I can't go from, and think about this, T, I'm gone from 4-time NBA All-Star, 2-time All-NBA, to now I got to confess to someone that I've got a problem. And I wasn't at that particular time of my life and my career, I just wasn't ready to come to terms with it for myself, nonetheless, tell someone what was going on.
Now, when you are seeing things slip away from, millions to, a very promising career and everything, what did rock bottom look like for Vin Baker?
So, what's interesting, T, and you've been around me, T, I'm spiritual and I trust in the Lord. And I think initially the rock bottom was what everyone has read about. It was the career was gone. There was my body started to turn. I was heavy. my career. I was losing my career. And then after basketball, you know, I lost my home. I had, you know, I built a restaurant I lost as well. So from the outside, man, like all the things that look like rock bottom, like losing the money and losing the career and losing homes and losing cars, losing friends, that felt like the rock bottom, but it wasn't necessarily the rock bottom for me, T. I think the rock bottom for me was like feeling this distance from the Lord, man. Like I felt hopeless. Like, and that's like, I started to get over losing things. Like once it's reported that, you know, Vin Baker loses house foreclosed on, like you get the initial embarrassment, but there's also the issue to you go drink it away. And then you drown all your depression and sorrows in the bottle. So I was finding a way, or had a way, to cope with what was perceived as rock bottom. But once you start, the drink doesn't fit anymore. Like it's not enough. I felt this spiritual disconnection. And, you know, I looked in the mirror one day. I was living at my parents' old house, the house I grew up in. And I just looked in the mirror and I was just a shell of myself physically. There was nothing there spiritually. And I just said, God, I just need you to help me. I don't know what's going to happen, what tomorrow holds, but I need help now. I wasn't fighting. I was giving up. So for me, T, the rock bottom was more of a spiritual rock bottom more than it was I was losing everything.
Yeah. And I know a lot of this you document in your book that I encourage everyone to read, God and Starbucks. But when you talk about some of the drinking in terms of your playing career, were there times that you would drink after, before, and sometimes during a game?
Yeah, I documented that in God and Starbucks. It was before, after, during. It was a real disease for me. It was a real issue. It wasn't something I found out about alcoholism during those times. Like you can't just white knuckle it and say, I'm not going to do it today, or I don't want to do it because the game is about to happen. If you're where I was during that time, it was more, I got to do it. Like, or I'm going to embarrass myself, or 1B, maybe worse, have a seizure. Because once you pass that physical threshold of you need it, there is no times that you can't do it unless you just check in to detox. And that was towards the tail end of my career, T. That was, 3 or 4 years with, 3 or 4 teams where I was in that bad place with alcohol.
Got you. Now, what does April 17, 2011 mean to you?
Oh, man. Man, T, that's my birth date, man. That's the day that God gave me a second chance, a new lease on life. It was the day I went to Rushford Hospital in Connecticut, and I checked into rehab for the last time, man. That was 9 years ago. And as you mentioned, T, I celebrated 9 years of sobriety a couple of weeks ago, and it was my birthday, man. And you know what's so interesting, T? I'll share this too, man. In 9 years, this is the most miraculous part about it. In 9 years, I've never passed the package store. I've never thought about drinking. It's never even become like a thought of mine. So that's even, to me, it's even more miraculous that the thought of it hasn't come back. And I give all praise and glory to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. It's nothing that I've done. I've obviously done the 12 steps and followed what I was supposed to follow. But without God, I wouldn't have done this.
And your recovery journey has been awesome ever since. But it's taken some interesting stops along the way. Like 2014, you're part of this team that Dennis Rodman constructs to go and play in North Korea in front of Kim Jong-un on his birthday. How did you get mixed up in that, man? And how crazy was it being over there?
So you said 2014?
Yes.
So I'm doing the math. I'm going to do this math with you, T, because I just came up with a new reason why I was over there. It was 2014. This is 2020. So this was my 3rd year of sobriety when I went over there. It must have been some residue left over. It must have been I hadn't all the way healed yet. because, you know, at the time, what was interesting to you is at the time I was in seminary. I was working as a youth pastor at the Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem, New York. And I got this call from Charles Smith, the former Knick, who, and also one of the former NBA player reps. And so Charles, smart dude, called, and the call to me and to the other players was about basketball diplomacy. And I wasn't really paying attention to anything outside of myself spiritually and being in New York and being in seminary and being a youth pastor, man. So I went over there, T, a little bit naive and blind to what was going to happen. And also a check, T. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I was like, all right, we're just going to go in basketball diplomacy. But man, when we got there, T, it was something that I'd never seen, expected. I'll share a quick story about that, T. Like when we were over there and like we started to figure out, like we were becoming like, we heard that a lot of people in the States, the national news and our family members were getting harassed about the fact that we were over in North Korea and that the government had said, you know, this was idiotic and they should have never went and who in the heck would do this and they're just wrong and just all this negative stuff was coming out. So Dennis was there at the time, and Dennis, good guy, man, at the heart, man, to the core, decent guy. We all have our stories and issues, but Dennis and Charles got in this big argument about, you know, because we were feeling heat. So the one thing Charles and all of us agreed to is like, listen, we're not going to say it was for this guy's birthday. It was basketball diplomacy. Like there was some mixed stories coming out. So after about 30, 45 minutes of deliberation, we're like, we got to stay. We got to play the game. It's basketball diplomacy. We're not saying anything about this guy's birthday. We walk out to get to the arena the next day. Everyone's getting ready. Kind of everyone's a little shaken, but we're going to go through with this and get it done. We walk out on the court. Dennis grabs the mic. Everyone goes quiet. He grabs the mic and he says, "Happy birthday to you."
You know, that's exactly what we talked about not doing.
I said, man, we ain't gonna make it out of here. Like, and even if we do, man, we ain't no good at home no more. I can tell you that much now. So that's how that whole trip happened. There was a documentary on that, T. I think I watched that thing one time and I was like, I'm never watching this ever again in my life.
And it might have been that 30 for 30 with Dennis Rodman, because there were some clips that like everyone that was sitting next to him was just looking at him like, come on, man. That was in 2014. 2015, you're remaining sober, you're getting things back in order in your life, and you make a phone call to an old friend, and you ended up becoming a manager at the Starbucks in your hometown. Tell us who that friend was and how that call changed your life.
Yeah, so a good friend of mine to this day is the Schultz family, Howard and Mrs. Schultz and Jordan and Addie. The whole family have been so supportive to me in this whole journey of coming back with sobriety. And I made a call to Howard, and we talked for a while. And I was down in New York at the time, and we talked about the opportunity to do retail. And so I'm talking to the boss. Retail means I'm about to be district manager, regional manager, something like that. Yeah,
right.
I figure out the paperwork. But I ended up going to train. I actually started in Rhode Island. And that's North Kingston, Rhode Island was my first store. And I trained there for a few months. And it was, I can tell you, I actually stayed at Starbucks for a year, T, and went to 4 different stores because I was horrible. That's why they kept moving me. But no, in all seriousness, T, that 1 year did so much for me from a humility standpoint. It did so much for my sobriety. It got me refocused, man. And it was a pivotal, believe it or not, T, it was a pivotal point in my sobriety. And as a matter of fact, I don't think I would have gotten back here to have this opportunity with the Milwaukee Bucks if it wasn't for my Starbucks experience.
Wow. And in 2017, you released your book, God and Starbucks. How liberating was that for you?
It was really liberating to me and hard to write. I co-wrote it with a friend of mine, Joe Layden, and we sat for hours and really deliberated and talked over the stories. And it was painful, man. It's nothing worse than being sober for, I think, 6 years at that time, and then having to relive all those experiences. Yeah. But I thought for me to not only being liberated, I thought for me to, it was important to share that book just because I was talking to a world of recovery, man. I wasn't, trying to sell a book to people who just want to read about the NBA and see all these crazy stories. I wanted to show the journey to recovery, man, because it's a dark, dark, hopeless place when you're strung out on drugs or you're an alcoholic. So I got the opportunity to write this book. And for me, it was more about how can I reach the world of recovery? How can I share with them how I got sober? And so that was my whole plan in writing the book. And so I hope that I was able to touch a few lives with the book.
Be on the lookout for part 2. Make sure to subscribe to Telly Hughes Media and click notifications so you'll be notified on all upcoming episodes of Untold Truths with Telly.